Freya Dawnspire.
Freya Dawnspire navigated her small skiff through the crowded waterways of the floating bazaar, the air thick with the scent of exotic spices and the low hum of haggling traders. She was a simple messenger, content in her obscurity, until a frantic old man shoved a small, pulsating crystal into her hands. "Take it," he rasped, his eyes wide with terror. "They cannot have it. Find the keeper of the lost tides." Then he was gone, swallowed by the maze of floating stalls, leaving Freya holding a destiny she never asked for. Before Freya could even process the old man's words, the air crackled. A silent, sleek vessel carved through the desert, its hull marked with the sigil of the Graviton Syndicate. Armoured figures leaped onto her skiff, their movements precise and ruthless. They demanded the crystal. In the struggle, her little boat was shattered, her livelihood sinking into the murky depths. With the crystal clutched to her chest and her home destroyed, pursuit was no longer a choice. It was the only path forward. The Syndicate's aggression stirred a long-buried memory. She was a child again, hiding in a storage locker, as those same sigils were painted on her parents' airship before it was seized. She remembered her father's last whispered words. "Some things are too powerful to be owned, Freya. They must only be protected." The memory wasn't just of loss, it was a lesson. Her family had stood against the Syndicate's greed once. The crystal was not a mere trinket, it was a responsibility. Her flight led her to the Rust-Muttish Krog, a ramshackle tavern floating on a tethered platform. There, she found unlikely allies. Elias, a cynical but brilliant engine wright, with a grudge against the Syndicate, and Kael, a quiet mapmaker who knew the secret routes between the floating islands. They were outcasts, like her, who had seen their world taken piece by piece. When Freya showed them the crystal and spoke of the Keeper, they didn't see a burden. They saw a cause worth fighting for. Their first challenge was the Whispering Chasm, a treacherous zone of dead air and violent, unpredictable winds. The Syndicate had patrols, but the real enemy was the sky itself. Their new, patched-together glider shuddered, threatening to tear apart. Elias fought with the straining engine, Kael shouted corrections against the gale, and Freya at the helm had to trust them both completely. It was a test of their fragile trust, a trial by storm that forged their group into a crew. That night, under a blanket of strange stars, the crystal glowed softly in Freya's hand. It wasn't just a light, it was a whisper. It showed her a vision not of her past, but of her parents' hope. They weren't just victims, they were founders. Part of a secret order dedicated to guarding such artifacts from the Syndicate. The crystal wasn't merely an object Tutor delivered, it was a key. And she, Freya Dawnspire, was its rightful guardian, the heir to a legacy she never knew was hers. They found the Keeper's sanctuary hidden behind a waterfall in the high skies. But the Syndicate was already there, their leader, a cold woman named Commander Vance, holding the ancient Keeper at gunpoint. Freya stepped forward, the crystal glowing brightly in her palm. "You hunt power," she said, her voice steady with the weight of her revelation. "But you never understood it. This isn't a weapon to be controlled. It's a memory to be honored." She didn't fight with steel, but with truth, revealing the Syndicate's theft and her own birthright. Commander Vance, exposed and defeated, retreated, but the victory was bittersweet. The Keeper was safe, but the sanctuary's location was compromised. The old way of hiding was over. Freya looked at her friends, at the resolve in their eyes, and knew they had ignited a conflict far larger than themselves. They had not just completed a quest, they had declared a war for the soul of the floating world, and the consequences would ripple across every cloud and current. Freya did not return to being a messenger. From the reclaimed sanctuary, a new base of operations grew. Elias tinkered with new defences. Kael charted alliances with other displaced traders, and Freya, the Guardian, began to teach others. The floating bazaar still bustled, but now whispers of a new hope spread through the stalls. Whispers of Dawnspire and her allies, protectors of the lost and forgotten, ensuring that some things remain sacred and free in their ever-drifting world.